All right. Welcome, everyone, to the EOS Fireside Chat. We've got a good show lined up for you. We've got some interesting topics. Um, so let's get into it. So, real quickly on the agenda today, we'll be having some more technical discussions like we did last week. This week, we're talking about a bunch of release candidates that were released this week. Mandel 3.1, release candidate 2, CDT 3.0, release candidate 1, and Contracts 3.1, release candidate 1. Of course, a big topic this week is the third Eden election that happened last Saturday. So we'll be talking about that. We've got Chris Barnes and Dogman, who are two of the head of the chief delegates. Also, Han from Node 1 is another chief delegate, and then Luca is our head chief delegate. We'll be talking a bit about Pomelo, of course. We've got some more articles about GameFi and DAGs penned by Yves Larose in the International Business Times website. We'll be talking also about some social media news of EOS. We had even Douglas Horn on the Coin Republic podcast talking about the EOS comeback. We had EOS Go publishing an article about the controversial Block One business dealings, and also DeFi Box announced their second anniversary NFT airdrop that's coming up. Not much details shared yet, but we'll touch upon that. And of course, any other topic you guys want to talk about, always feel free to jump in at any time. Of course, the mic is open to the community during the fireside chat. So those of you joining us on Discord, you can of course jump into the voice chat at any time. You can also click the voice chat inside of this voice channel for all your chatting needs, and then you can go to the PopBot chat to sign up for your POP token for today. Also, we're of course streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. So shout out to anyone watching us out there. If you are out there and you want to participate actively in this discussion, join us on Discord. Server is discord.gg/EOS-network. All right, let's get this show started. All right, go EOS. Yes, right. Checking out the chat. We've got Drew Block waving hi to everyone. We got Joe Louis on the shady hacker box. No mic, unfortunately. Always great when Joe Louis can chat in with us. Okay, so today we're gonna start off right into the deep end of some technical discussions, and we're gonna talk about the three release candidates that have been released this week. So first up, I would invite Matthew Darwin to talk to us a bit about the Mandel 3.1 release candidate 2.
Hey, Steph. I didn't know I was going first, but that's okay. Cool.
Surprise!
As the EOS Nation block producer operations team, we've been testing Mandel since actually before the first release candidate. And, release candidate 2 is released, fixed a couple of issues. There's a few more issues coming in future release candidate. But at this point, we have felt that it's reliable enough actually to deploy on EOS mainnet, and we have done so. So the EOS Nation infrastructure is running Mandel 3.1 release candidate 2, except for the block producer node. So the block producer node, we've left it on the existing Node EOS earlier versions. But the rest of the infrastructure that you might be using, our API nodes, or if you're connecting to our peer-to-peer nodes, yeah, it's running Mandel 3.1 already. So the official upgrade date is, still a few weeks, a month away. But already, it's working, good, stable. I can sleep through the night when it's running, so that's a good sign. yeah, so really
Have you
cool.
taken advantage of any of the new functionalities yet?
Well, the new features that are provided that came from API Plus, Blue Paper, those features are actually enabled on our API node. So if you want to try the transaction retry, for example, that feature is available. You're welcome to try it. We are using the new block rotation, or I don't know exactly I forget the name of it. There was a few different names, but the feature that allows the block log to be trimmed, so it doesn't take up huge amounts of disk space for nodes that don't need the full history. That was a feature in 2.1, and the ENF development team rewrote that for Mandel 3.1. So that's a cool feature as well. So we're using that. So yeah.
Great. Thanks, Matthew, for sharing your experience with the new Mandel 3.1 release candidate too. Glad to hear that. Seems like everything's working just fine.
Yeah, it was interesting. One of the people using our API endpoints are like, oh, this new thing here. Yeah, they found the new Mandel features, so they didn't even know they were using it. So
beautiful. Cool. All right, great. And at this point, I would invite Arhag if you want to join the chat here and talk about the other two release candidates. Go ahead.
Sure. Okay, so last week we were busy. We had 3 releases. In the last Fireside chat, I did already mention the 3.1.0 RC2, so I won't go over that again. I will, however, mention that we have, so I mentioned last time that we're still holding off on recommending activation of the crypto primitives protocol feature on test networks until we can do some further testing. So that testing has now been completed, and now we can recommend that all the protocol features of 3.1.0 RC2 can be activated on test networks. So that's the only update there since last week. So the day after the Fireside chat last week, we also released CDT 3.0.0 RC1, as well as contracts, system contracts version 3.1.0 RC1. So I'll briefly go over those. CDT, the CDT release, one of the big changes here that contract developers should be aware of is it's been renamed from EOSIO.cdt to just CDT. So there will be some small rename changes needed in your CMake files, just renaming EOSIO.cdt to CDT essentially, in order to use the new CDT 3.00 release. But there's no other breaking changes to the API, so contracts should compile fine. This is just sort of the cutaway to new version and get a fresh start there with the name. As far as new features go, there's some C++ wrappers for the crypto primitives. There's more C++ wrappers that we want to add in the future. For now, we just added support for getting the current block number, as well as some of the hashes, the SHA-3 hashes functionality. And then there's this cool new feature called the stack canary. So I will go a little bit technical into this. I think it's worth going into. So the way the WASM linear memory works is, so you have just this blob of memory, addressable memory, and the heap and the stack are all placed there. And CDT gives you some level of control of where you place the stack. So normally it would place the stack, the stuff that grows as you go deeper into, as you call functions, nest calling functions. That thing will grow, or that thing will be positioned at the beginning of the memory. And so the benefit of doing that is that if you ever overflow your stack, it will be a memory access violation and your program will terminate rather than doing bad, undefined things. There is a problem with that, though, which is WebAssembly has a limitation where the static data of your program, you can imagine like your strings that you have in your program, they have to all be stored in the first page of WebAssembly memory, which is 64 kilobytes. And so there's a conflict there of putting the stack at the beginning and putting and requiring the data to be also in that first page, which essentially restricts your stack size if it's at the beginning to basically 64 kilobytes less than whatever the data of your contract is takes up. And so that could be limiting for some contracts. So CDT has for a while now had the option of allowing you to put the stack in the end of the memory rather than the beginning, which allows you to have much larger stack sizes. The issue with that is that if you ever go over that stack size, you will start overriding over your heap memory and bad things can happen. So now with this new stack canary option, CDT will automatically generate code that will try to detect that. And if you do overflow your stack, it will just abort the action and also thus the transaction with the error code that's provided there in the README. So that's a nice improvement for increased safety for contracts that need larger stack sizes.
Quick question for you. What does CDT stand for?
Contract Development Toolkit.
There we go. Thanks.
Sure. All right. And then finally, the contracts version 3.1.0 RC1. By the way, it might be a little bit confusing here. We've had 3.00 for CDT and 3.10 for both Mandel or really EOSIO and the system contracts releases. This is because we had the sort of not really a release 3.0 of both Mandel and contracts. This was the work done by the Clarion OS now Fractally team, commissioned by the ENF. And that was never actually fully released as a stable release. We just moved straight to 3.1 because we wanted to do additional changes and do things a little differently. So we kind of skipped over that, which is why contracts and EOSI or Mandel is ahead by one. And so that's relevant here too, because the contracts 3.00 release that was never actually fully released included a lot of great changes that we wanted to release, and now we are officially releasing through this 3.1.0 release. So a lot of these nice features you'll find in the README here are from that work that was done previously. It's worth calling out though, because I don't know if anyone's actually talked about it. Plus, there's some other changes that we've added on top of that as well. So we in contracts 3.1.0, the core contract has some cool changes. It has, first of all, adds actions to make use of some of the new protocol features like configurable WASM limits. So there's an action that block producers could call to set a configuration for higher limits on WebAssembly contracts. So that means that you might be able to deploy larger contracts that you couldn't deploy before. It means that you might be able to have a larger call depth, which might impact some contracts that do some heavier things. This is far more at the protocol level. This is far more configurable, but we have to be careful with what numbers we provide, because it is possible to provide really extremely high numbers that make the chain unstable or make it an attack vector. So for now, we basically have two settings: the default setting of low and a setting of high, which just bumps up some of these values that we think are safe. And then this is a feature that I think, this is a feature that's come about from looking at what the community. So this next feature is one that's come about looking at what the community has been trying to build with contract pays by themselves and some of the issues they've hit. So one solution to contract pays is to distribute a private key publicly, like as built into your application, but to restrict its usage in a way such that you can't really do anything that's not desirable with that key. It's mainly just used as a way to have have some contract authorize your transaction to use the CPU and net resources of the account that key can access. There was a problem with that though, which is in the EOSIO protocol, if you have a key to a permission, you could change that permission. And that's just how the protocol works. So that means that this contract pay solution that some people came up with in the community has a denial of service attack where they can't really abuse the resources, but they could just change the keys and block anyone else from taking advantage of the resources until someone with the active keys or owner keys would come in and fix it manually, which is obviously not a viable solution for some, always on service. So this new feature of limit auth change to the system contract allows optionally putting additional restrictions on the actions that can change permission authorities. So update auth, delete auth, link auth, unlink auth. And so you could actually create a allow list and a disallow list of permissions that are allowed to make those changes. And then I won't go through everything. There's some new feature added in 3.1 of tracking some block information, although that's mostly unnecessary due to the get block number protocol host function that's also added, but there's some extra data there. There's a new boot contract, which is useful for bootstrapping a new chain or especially a test chain. And then there's some backported stuff. So there's the Rex rounding bug that hit a lot of people that has been finally backported in and part of this release as well. All right.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, thanks for all the great work you do and the rest of the technical team at ENF, improving EOSIO / Mandel and all the other contracts. It's great to hear. Does anyone have any questions or comments or want to jump in on this topic before we move on to something else? I'll be honest, that was very technical. I didn't follow all of it, so I can't really ask any more questions on it. But yeah, thanks for joining again the Fireside, and thanks for sharing.
We'll up your tech skills, Steph. We'll get you there.
Okay. Yeah, don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. Okay. All right. Moving on to another topic that I understand much better, Eden. So the Eden election happened last Saturday. I was able to join and again was able to meet new members of the community that I had never really chatted with. So that's always very, very enjoyable. And one of the things that I personally enjoy the most about Eden is exactly that, joining these rooms, getting to talk with other community members. Although I personally had some technical problems that morning, I was only able to get in there at the last minute. I was also able to join the Eden Fractal meetings this morning for the first time. Again, there was able to meet some new community members, and always great to hear what a variety of people are doing to improve EOS, improve Eden. So that's always very motivating. So at this point, I would invite some of our new chief delegates from the election to jump in and share some of their thoughts. So for those of you who don't know, we have Dan Singjoy, Dogman, we've got Chris Barnes from Helios, we've got Han from Node 1, and Luca that worked on the port application for Pomelo. There are 4 newly elected chief delegates, and Luca was the one randomly assigned the position of head chief delegate. So maybe Dogman, if you want to jump in here and share some of your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Stephane, for the introduction. And yeah, I'm glad that you enjoyed the Eden election and also the Eden Fractal meeting this morning. Thank you so much for joining both these events. It's very much appreciated by me and many people in the community. And thank you everybody who joined the Eden election and then also Fractal today too.
And congratulations to you, Dogman, for becoming chief delegate. I know you're very passionate about Eden and fractal democracy, so I was very happy to see you rise through the ranks in this election.
Thank you very much, Stephane. That's much appreciated. And yes, I am very, very passionate about Eden and fractal governance and true democracy and everything that we're working towards with the Eden community, as well as what you mentioned before about just meeting people who are doing incredible work for EOS and Eden. It's super inspiring. And I love the act of just like coming together these rooms and seeing what people are doing, and then you have friendships that come out of that, as well as you have all these business relationships because there's so many talented people who are doing amazing things. So thank you. It's my honor, and thank you everybody also who voted. Who voted in my rooms, and I'm looking forward to doing the best that I can to serve the EOS and Eden communities. And also congratulations to Chris Barnes, who's on this call right now, who's also chief delegate, who does excellent work and is also super passionate about Eden and EOS, and also of course Han and Luca, and then also all of the delegates too. So there are, I believe, 18 delegates who were elected, who will receive funding to help EOS and help Eden. And there's so many amazing people, as well as all the people who participate in the Eden election as well. So I'd like to just say thank you so much for the opportunity to help serve Eden and EOS, and I'm stoked to be working with everybody in the coming 3 months to help EOS and to help Eden, and also for the coming years. I'm very committed and excited to helping Eden, and I could go on and on about it, and I'm happy to share more details, but also I'd love to hear from Chris or if Stephane, you have any thoughts, or if any other Eden members or anybody has any thoughts too, then I suppose I'll refrain from rambling too much.
I can jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think you've given enough thanks for all of us, Dogman. So I'm really no, I think it's great that I think I totally echo Stephane's point about yourself, Dogman, and Dan. You've been in this thing for a long time, and you're very committed. You put a lot of time in, so I think it's really great to see you being rewarded and recognized by the community. That's what this is all about, right? Eden is about the people. We're all in this blockchain thing. It's a tech. It's devs and binary and code, but in the end, all of that is irrelevant if it doesn't connect with the human beings that this stuff is all meant to empower. And Eden is a means by which we can empower the community. It's a true democratic process that can select leaders and representatives from amongst a community that gives us each an actual voice, a way to impact the outcome of an election. Which, for me, I just did an interview with Patrick today, and he kind of asked the question of what is the nsjames asked a good question in Twitter as well, like what is the main purpose, or what's the point of Eden? I forget, there was a better way to word it, but and my answer was ultimately it's about democracy, and it's about yes, it's Eden on EOS, and we want to see Eden have an impact in the EOS ecosystem and be a big part of this comeback narrative and the story, and the reason why EOS will propel itself from being near 50 in market cap to hopefully number 5 or more, right? And we want Eden to be a part of that story and a part of the journey. And why? It's because of this democratic process that is so unique. And so that's, for me, what's most important is then getting this democratic process outside of our bubble, outside of the EOS world, and recognized more broadly in the other cryptocurrency communities that can recognize that, hey, this is something we should add to our ecosystem, because look how it's empowering this community and bringing them together and putting them to work. And then from there, it spreads to the world at large. And to me, that's what most inspires me about this whole thing, is the bigger picture, and what does Eden do more broadly in 10 years? What can we do then? And it's baby steps, and it starts with getting our own house in order, which is, I think we've got the right set of chief delegates to really refine what the point of Eden is and clear up some of those technical issues, Steph, that you had, right? That's not cool. We got to find ways to, if there are technical issues and we don't want to rely on a DDoS attack on a website, at least have the instructions there so people can interact via the blockchain, which is always an option. But if we don't have the PDF in front of us to follow, that's no good. So I think there's a lot of things that will get done. I'm really pleased with the set of chief delegates that I have with myself. Dan, again, passionate. Luca is a guy who absolutely gets shit done, and I very much respect that about him. And Han has a heart of gold. So between all of us, I think we've got all the ingredients it takes to have a really successful 3-month term.
Just want to clear
things up. Chris, I agree.
The technical issues I referenced, these were personal issues. It wasn't actually related to Eden. It was just on my side.
Well, in that case, too bad.
One question I had for you guys, there was the first contact meeting kind of right after the election with E from the ENF. I wasn't able to attend that. I haven't listened to it, but I would love to get a recap of what went down in that meeting. And also, is that the first time that there's this kind of first contact meeting kind of right after the election with the ENF and the chief delegate. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I'll jump in quick and then give you a chance, Dan. It was the first official meeting between official chief delegates, which this whole thing began last October. October 9th was the first official election. We had 6-month term with those six chief delegates then. Then there was a second election, 3-month term, and now we've begun the third. And in none of those, the previous 9 months, there wasn't really an official meeting or a meeting period, I don't think, between Eve as a representative, the primary representative of ENF, and Eden. So it's really important. We want to create, this is a relationship. We want to work with the network, and we want to support the network. Eden is here to support EOS, and what better way to do that than by having open and transparent communication? And so it's kind of like this, we're hitting the ground running. We're not wasting time. We only have 3 months. We need to get shit done. And so, yeah, within 12 hours of the election, we were live with Eve, had a great conversation, clarifying some of the expectations that he has as the prime representative of the network, and I really appreciated a lot of his responses where he didn't want to dictate what Eden does. He very much respects the value of Eden as its own process with its own set of individuals who need to define its own path. However, there's still this relationship between the network and Eden, and a lot of that is funding based. To not beat around the bush, Eden has a treasury, but the price of EOS being what it is, and the nature of the draw of that treasury at only currently 5% per month, doesn't provide a lot of funds to get a lot done. So there is this question of, well, can we get more funding from the network? And then how does that work? And what does the network want to see from Eden to then provide the confidence it will require to give us more funding? And so we reviewed a lot of that, and I think we got some really good answers. And for me, one of the big takeaways that I think is somewhat obvious is Eden needs to use what it has. We've got a savings account. We have 180,000 EOS. Let's put it to work, and let's not, ask for more funding while we're sitting on this pile of funds as it stands. So I think, anyway, bottom line, I encourage folks to watch that. It was a great set of questions. Eve is, very much deliberate and to the point, and I very much respect that about him. And so for those who haven't seen it, you should watch it to see. And it's just positive. Like, in the end, we're all moving. I think we realigned our objectives and incentive structure to make sure we move forward positively.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chris, for explaining and sharing all your enthusiasm and great information and insights about Eden. And I agree. Just to add on to a few things. One, I do think that, I believe at least what I heard, and I'm not sure if this is correct, but I see Chuck and I believe Michael from Bywire are on the call, so they could correct me if I'm mistaken. But I believe that Eve met with the chief delegates at the end of the second term of, like, just a few weeks ago with the second term of chief delegates. But that wasn't official, and it wasn't broadcast, and it certainly wasn't within 24 hours of starting the term like we did. So first off, just thank you very much, Chris, for coordinating that. And then also thank you, Helios, for coordinating that as well. I also loved the imagery that Waxa did, and the whole meeting was incredibly helpful. Also, a big thank you to Eve and the ENF, of course, for supporting Eden and supporting this truly democratic process on EOS. As Chris was saying, this process has tremendous potential to benefit the world and also create value for EOS and EOS community. So I'm incredibly appreciative of the ENF and Eve for supporting that, both in terms of financially, as the ENF has endowed Eden with some funds to get started, and then also in terms of non-financial support, like just helping us set our vision and so forth, and learning what we need to do to help grow this process and to help empower communities with Eden and with fractal governance and so forth. And then also in addition too, so one, that was a very interesting call, which, like Chris, I highly recommend that everybody listen to that. It's great to hear Eve's perspectives as well as the chief delegates' perspectives. And then we also had our first chief delegate call too, 2 days ago, which is also published. It's pretty short, where we just kind of summarize some of what we're aiming to do, and we're soon going to be publishing KPIs and so forth to measure our progress, and also lots of things that we're doing every week on behalf of and to help the Eden and EOS community. So I recommend everybody check those out too, to keep in touch. And then also we met for the first chief delegate called, the first Eden town hall on Sunday, the day after the election. That was since the beginning of the term. So for the past, I don't know, 2 months or so, 3 months, Felix Reese and I have been co-hosting Eden Town Halls every Sunday at 16 UTC. This was originally sponsored by Michael from Bywire with his funding as a chief delegate in term 2. So, of course, very much appreciated Michael. And they've been great conversations for a while, and now they're especially interesting because Felix is also a delegate now. Shout out to Felix. He's doing amazing work for the community, and Chris joined. And so I was also there, and Jesse was there. Jesse's doing amazing work, and I'm also supporting Jesse's platform to help empower the Eden community with the EOSBs and an Eden Growth Initiative to make Eden a networking event as well, or to expand the purpose of Eden into a networking event as well, so people can meet people in the blockchain industry, even if they don't know much about Eden. So once again, like there's so much information, I can go on, and I'm happy to answer questions or share more details. But just to provide some color, there's amazing things happening. Yeah, somebody's speaking. Okay, I'm assuming that that was an accident. But anyway, okay, cool. Thank you, Stephane. The point I was making, just wrapping it up, was in addition to the meeting with Eve that we had for the first contact, also there's lots more you can learn about what we're doing, and keep in touch with us at both the weekly chief delegate calls that we're doing every week, and the first one's published now, and then also the Eden Town Halls on Sunday. I'll be there every week, as well as Felix, and it's great that Chris joined. In the past, we had Chuck and Michael join as well. So I invite everybody to come join there to talk more about Eden, as well as the Eden Fractal events too, that Stephane mentioned before. So I have been participating in and have been playing a big role in starting these Eden Fractal events. We've been doing them for the past 6 weeks now, and it's been amazing. We had the most people that we've ever had today. There was like, I don't know, 20 something Eden members who participated, and it's super fun and super helpful. Chris has been there, Stephane was there, and many amazing community members. So that's another place where as the Eden community is growing and developing, we're really starting to have all these different meetings throughout the week where the community can interact more than ever and share their voice to be like a truly democratic community, and a community that can benefit everybody as much as possible. So I invite everybody to join these events. And also, if anybody has any questions or have any thoughts you'd like to share about EOS, the future of Eden, then feel free to reach out at these events or reach out to me privately anytime. And yeah, thank you once again.
Hey guys, I'm Felix here. I just want to hop into and add a couple comments. Yeah, so for everyone who's here who, hasn't been involved in Eden or is curious, I just want to kind of say, amongst many things that is exciting about EOS and what kind of separates us amongst the other cryptocurrencies, everyone here on Eden, we believe a lot in this being one of those things that really helps separate us from other cryptocurrencies. So yeah, definitely encourage you guys to come check us out. I provided the link to our the Eden Discord server in the voice chat room, and yeah, come check us out, guys, because Eden is exciting, and it really we feel like we're gonna bring a lot to the table for EOS, and continue to further add to what EOS is gonna do to the world, and yeah, exciting times for sure.
Absolutely, thank you, Felix.
Can you guys share a bit about the platforms that
Hi,
the
good
chief
afternoon.
delegates ran? Hey, was that Patrick?
No, I am not Patrick. I am Illich.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for jumping
I'm so
in.
sorry.
We'd love to hear your
Yeah,
comments.
thank you. Yeah, I have a question for delegate or chief delegate. And what do you think about promote with meetings or no in meeting media or real meetings in hotels or something like that for promote EOS, for example, in different countries like United States or Canada, for example, Africa or South America, Central America. What do you do, or what do you think it is possible to do?
So I'm not sure how that relates necessarily to Eden explicitly. Eden is a global community. So in terms of meeting in person, actually great for Eden members to get together, and sure if they can do that. But in terms of Eden as a larger organization, it's deliberately spread across the globe. So it's certainly tough to try to coordinate anything like that. I'm not sure if that's what you mean.
Yeah, it is true. It is very expensive meeting like this. I know the cheaper is like this. So not all countries the people can speak English or understand English better than me or than other people. So I think it's the real implementation. I don't know how is the correct pronunciation. So it's better in the same language of that country. So Latin America have a very special because all countries speak the same language except Brazil. So the rest of the countries speak Spanish.
Yeah, well,
So
eventually there's going to be other Eden communities that are more around the other languages. So there is a Chinese community that's begun, a Korean community, and there was a while ago a start at a Spanish community. I think there still is the Eden Spark community, it's called, and that's Spanish. So certainly there's other versions of Eden that are forming that are, again, to be more broad and diverse, that cover more languages other than English.
Yep, and that the Eden Spark community seems to be doing quite a lot of great work from what I can tell. So I don't speak Spanish, so I haven't been able to attend any of these meetings, but I believe that they meet every week. And then also they have a beautiful website, and a lot of their participants are also very active throughout the EOS community, EOS support, and so forth. So I see them doing a lot of great work. In fact, I believe Jose Vicente is a delegate now, and I believe that he's one of the leaders in the Eden Spark community. So it's great to see that Eden and the principles of true democracy and so forth are spreading around the world and being accessible in all different cultures. Absolutely, we love to and need to spread that more throughout the world to help everybody. And then, yeah, I think also another thing that might be relevant here too. So in the last term, Chief Delegate Brock Pierce mentioned several times about the need for the EOS community to share what it's doing with the world. He talks about how sometimes the EOS community, like we're talking in this Discord, which is phenomenal to have everybody, all the amazing contributors in this meeting. But it'll also be great to speak out to the larger world and show everybody all the amazing things that we're doing in the EOS community. So he spoke a bit about arranging conferences and so forth. And it's great to see that the ENF is doing that with going to places like Token 2049 and so forth. And over time, I think that the Eden community should and will have a presence at a lot of these events to share the amazing things that are going on in Eden. Right now, Eden is at a fairly early stage where we're sort of getting our house in order, I think, as Chris said, and we're figuring out the best ways to do it. And so I think it makes the most sense to focus probably mostly on communicating remotely, like on the video call that we had this morning during the Eden Fractal, and then also this call where we're talking about it, and then the video call during the Eden election. These are ways that people all around the world can get to know each other, and that's where we can set our roots. And then as we grow, then we can expand with many Edens and many communities using this process and so forth, and across different languages. And then absolutely meeting at live events will be profoundly helpful for Eden and for everybody to help spread the word about what we're doing here. And help people connect more in person too, because of course the Eden process, we're using smart contracts on EOS, and EOS smart contracts make it so much more helpful in many ways. But the Eden process, it's also very basic. People can do it with a deck of playing cards too, so we can empower people in all kinds of ways. And meeting in person, that's certainly one of the goals of many people in the Eden community, including myself, to empower local communities that are, neighbors and so forth, or empowering people who are just coming together in a common city, that people can see each other in person, because there's a lot of amazing connection there, obviously, and opportunities. Hope that answers your question.
I'll toss my 2 cents in quickly, if that's all right, just to kind of add my support for local meetups. I think they're great. I met the rest of the EOS Nation team, close to 4 years ago now. When I started hosting pub nights in Toronto, EOS pub nights in Toronto, really doesn't take a lot of resources and effort. I created a meetup account, started a EOS Toronto meetup group, created an event. People started showing up. It was a great opportunity to meet people in my local area who were passionate about EOS. And like I said, that's how I met the rest of the EOS Nation team. And now with with Eden and Pomelo, these are two avenues you have. If you are a passionate person and you want to start meeting locally, and there's not a meetup group actively hosting hosting events in your area, think about creating a group yourself and maybe creating a proposal on Pomelo to get a little bit of a budget and host some regular meetups in your local area.
Yeah, fantastic idea, Daniel, and thank you for sharing that experience. And thanks also for participating in, I believe you said, hosting in those meetings in Toronto. I think you said because, of course, that led to and played a pivotal role in the starting of EOS Nation, which is so profoundly helpful for everybody here in the community. And of course, your work and Stephane's work and everybody else at EOS Nation, including myself too, because I recently joined EOS Nation. It's so much appreciated. So that is great input. And yeah, I would also second that. Highly encourage everybody to start local events where you think it makes sense, and that's something that I'd absolutely also help support as well.
I noticed Luca has joined us. Welcome to the Fireside, Luca, and congrats on becoming head chief delegate of Eden.
Hey everybody, I'm just listening in, feeling in to see where you guys are at currently. Yeah.
So
it was
yeah,
the week was very full. Basically we had like a ton of meetings already. We kind of need to catch up with everything. What's going on, what we need to do in these 3 months, what wasn't finished, and so on.
I'd be curious to hear from you guys what your election platforms were in order to get elected. So I think we got 3 of the 4 chief delegates here. So I'd love to hear about you guys of what you ran on for the election.
So do we do just the pitches? Pitches.
Whatever you want.
Well, sure, I can do mine, I guess. I guess my first thing was like I'm trying to make sure that Eden kind of stays in a split consensus mode, which I think is what this experiment is mostly about. It's not only about this, but I believe it's mostly about that. So the idea is that every CD it's kind of independent, and it can and they can do their own stuff without trying to reach global consensus, which is slow, and there's like a lot of politicking to find it and so on. So for me, it's best if we can split like a roles and have our own budgets. We can move way faster and just everybody does their own stuff, and we only try to find a global consensus for like things like updating the contract and so on. So on the other hand, I also have like a personal project that I will lend one of my developers to, and this is a Telegram bot. So Telegram bot that will, well, first it can provide like notifications to people, so they register first for election. It can check if they already registered or not, and it can display them a different message in this case. So basically, it can notify them so they are not late to it. And then second, it can create them the groups. Whenever the groups splitting happens on chain, the bot can basically send each user the right Telegram group invite link, and people can just join in. and they can join the video chat in that group. So, and from there, you basically have like a one button to record it, so everybody can record it. And at the end of the day, you still upload normally like you do right now. So I believe that will basically reduce the friction a lot, because Zoom is it's weird. First it expires. Second, you need to so whoever is hosting the Zoom needs to give permissions for everybody to record and so on. And this is a lot of points of friction for users. And with Telegram, we can remove them. And it's not that hard to build it. So it can be done in 2 months and basically finished in 3. So that's it. And then maybe, well, we just need to kind of find, make sure that the Eden itself will run. Because, I mean, to be completely honest, it almost stopped running in the last election. The website was kind of down, half down, I should say. So we kind of need to improve that. We need to make sure that the next elections will run better, and also that everybody that's needed for it to run, it gets paid basically, because otherwise people just missing that no teams, and basically nobody knows how to fix them, and that's not a good position to be in. So that's currently, I guess, what I'm trying to make sure that we leave this Eden platform in a better state.
All right, thanks for joining and thanks for sharing and congratulations on getting elected once again.
Thank you.
Dogman, Chris, did you guys want to share the platform you ran on?
Go ahead, Dogman.
Okay. Yep. Sounds great. I'd be very happy to. Thank you. So the platform I ran on, the main focus was to support the new Eden Fractal. The overall goal was to help empower the Eden community and help bring together the Eden community with engaging events and so forth in many different ways. But the focal point is the Eden Fractal. So, and then I also, during my election round, I was in a room with Jesse, and I've been in communication with Jesse from the EOSBs quite a lot over the past couple weeks, and going back for several months as well, but especially over the past couple weeks, as he created a proposal for Growth Eden to expand the purpose of Eden with networking events, as I briefly mentioned before. So some of this I touched upon before, but I'll reiterate and also clarify it and share it in a more concise way here right now. So the main goal was to help support the Eden Fractal. So the Eden Fractal started 6 weeks ago, and basically the way it works is we're using a variant of the Fractally process that the Genesis Go Fractally group started, and they do every Saturday. That's led in large part by Dan Larimer and the Fractally team, and there's many amazing community members there. I've been participating every week for the past 20 weeks or so, and it's been an incredible experience. Like, as we were talking about before, and as Stephane mentioned, just the act of meeting together with people, you meet so many, you form so many great relationships, and then so many amazing tools get built from that, especially with the advantages of the consensus mechanism, with whereby people get ranked, or whereby people's contributions get ranked 1 through 6 according to how much they're helping the community, and then that also incentivizes people to do great work as well. So basically the idea of Eden Fractal was to bring that process to the Eden community and the EOS community, and to use that fractal process for helping Eden and help EOS. So as I said, we've been doing it for about 6 weeks or so, and we have a bunch of amazing EOS community members and many of the best builders, people who build applications and people who host live shows and people who make art and so forth. There's a lot of amazing people and many people on this call who have been joining these events, and we've been doing that Fractally process for the past 6 weeks or so. I was funding it with 100 EOS per week, that was distributed according to the Fibonacci algorithm, in addition to the respect token that we have on chain. So everybody who joined these events earned EOS and also Eden respect according to how their peers rank their contributions in each meeting. And then Chuck McDonald has also been making amazing NFTs. And last week he made an NFT that's backed with EOS. He's been working with Martin and Rodrigo, I believe, and many great EOSIO kind of NFT aficionados, people who really know about NFTs. So there's a lot of different things that people earn by joining the Eden Fractal events. And yeah, so over the past 5 weeks, I was supporting it with my budget as a delegate from last term as an Eden delegate. And then also Patrick from Nova Crypto is also, he's committed to sponsor with 500 more EOS. But my main platform was to basically support this, to give the Eden Fractal more runway and to be able to continue giving out 100 EOS a week or perhaps more in the future to people who join and share their contributions for Eden and EOS and so forth, and then also support it in whatever other way it's possible or helpful. Like I know, for example, Vlad is a great developer in EOS who's building tools for, he built Consortium and CTF, which are two great apps on EOS along with Lenar. And so I might also help Vlad to build some further tools for fractal governance on EOS. And so that will be decided exactly how it works out in the best way. But basically that was the main part of my platform to help bring together the community and empower the community with this fractal process. And then also using half my budget to support Jesse's initiative, where now he'll be starting a Eden networking event, which is a half hour before each Eden Fractal event, where people who don't know much about EOS, he's reaching out to many influencers who have great ideas and great followings and sharing what EOS is and sharing what Eden is and inviting people to join Eden networking events where people can just learn about EOS and so forth, or just talk about what they're interested in and get to know each other. And those will be right before the Eden and Fractal events. So supporting marketing for more people to come to Eden, and then that'll be combined where once people come to Eden and learn about Eden, then they can join these Eden Fractal meetings and they can earn some EOS and Eden respect and NFTs and get to know the community and be incentivized to help the community overall. I know that's kind of a lot there that I said, so I hope that all made sense. But that was my platform basically, and that's how I'm looking forward to really helping the Eden community very much in the coming months and years.
Awesome. I'll go next then. So Han's not here, but I'll briefly I know he was running on behalf of the myvoteeos.com campaign, which I'll just read from the website, so I'm not putting words in his mouth, but that is to reestablish the legitimacy and accountability in blockchain governance by uncompromised consensus of all EOS holders on and off chain. And essentially it's getting BPs to kind of opt into a set of guiding principles, primarily that they will not pay for votes and they will not operate sock puppets. Those are the two kind of big pieces that they're looking, because there are some sock puppets, and vote buy, trade, sell is to each their own in terms of whether they like that or not. That, however, is the general focus that he has, and he got support from the community to continue with that agenda. Okay, so for myself, I ran on the idea of basically creating a better top of funnel for Eden in terms of if anybody on this call right now, if I was to point you somewhere to, hey, Eden's awesome, you should check it out, you might want to become a member. I don't know where to point you. There is no updated website, for example, that's being maintained that is up to date in terms of even just the election dates and the details. And even just what is the purpose of Eden? Why are we here? What is this thing all about? Eden, initially, when it was first birthed from Dan a year and a few months ago, it was the only means of receiving funding within the network. It was basically a worker proposal system. There was no Pomelo, there was no ENF, there was no grant framework, there was none of that. So it was kind of it was viewed as a potential worker proposal system. And it still does function as that. The output of the election are individuals who are selected and they receive funding from a community treasury. So it is still functioning as a worker proposal system. However, I think this can be a whole hell of a lot more, as I described earlier, about the governance side and it being a true democracy and something that could legitimately change the world that has nothing to do with blockchain, has to do with how we select leaders and representatives. And that to me is huge. So in order to make that happen, we need to draw in more users. And that is the baby step of getting this idea out there, is making Eden awesome on EOS. and it has to help EOS. And the best way that Eden can help EOS is by bringing in new users into Eden, who then become new users of the EOS blockchain. So the very first thing that I'm going to be working on, had a call with Michael today, who is the Circle lead. We're using a bit of a holocratic framework to provide roles and responsibility that function for Eden as an organization that don't depend on one's success in an election. So that's a big step that we can thank the previous chief delegates for enacting these roles that then persist. So we're not dependent on an election and who won the election. Do we have somebody who can actually do a website now who's a chief delegate? Did they even commit to doing it? We don't want to depend on that. We need Eden to function as a more traditional organization from that point of view. So the very first thing is a new website. We're going to make a new, fresh website that's going to be catchy. It's going to speak to why we're here. What is this thing all about? So then that just begs the question, why are we here? What is this thing all about? So next Tuesday, to those who, this is going to be new news. This is some alpha. I'll be in the Eden members channel. I'll be inviting every Eden member to participate in the first of probably a few brainstorming sessions to come together under the guidance of Gabriel Shaw from the Helios team. He's spoken a few times here. He can maybe speak after this just to talk to this, but he's an incredibly gifted individual when it comes to working with companies and as far as the incubator goes, but he can work with Eden. He can help incubate Eden and help us arrive at the answer to the question of what is Eden? What are we here for? How do we articulate what our purpose is? What is the mission and the values that we stand for? And then how do we express that mission and values to the greater world at large and draw them into our ecosystem? So next Tuesday at 1400 UTC, we will have the first, and hopefully we get some reasonable participation. And we'll actually use the Eden process. So we're going to, everybody shows up in a Zoom room. We'll do it manual. Gabriel will run us through how it's going to work and what he hopes each breakout room will do. And then we'll do a random breakout group. People will break into their side rooms. And hopefully in these discussions, people in those side rooms can come to consensus around what the answer to some of these questions are, select a representative to speak for that group, and then boil it up. And we all come together, meet back, boil all these ideas together, and hopefully distill all of these community views into a consensus as to what Eden is for. And so that's a big piece of this. And then beyond that, also going to be trying to incorporate the Haifa DAO tool. So we've been granted access to use the Haifa DAO tool as part of their early access alpha group and see if we want to try to use some of the functionality of roles, responsibilities, badges, and just that whole Haifa tool, which is awesome. For those who don't know, it's a DAO builder tool essentially, and see if we want to use that and leverage it within Eden. So that's the primary thing for me. But again, it's all about new users, bring them into Eden, bring them into EOS. And that is an objective measurement by looking at membership count and election participation to objectively measure those metrics to see how successful I was. And also just show that Eden's growing. We need this thing to we need to keep growing it. So that's my primary focus.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chris. I'm very much looking forward to joining these events. Gabriel does amazing work. He was also in my room, and I always enjoy meeting with Gabriel in the times that we have. So yeah, I believe he said 1400 UTC on Tuesday. So I'll be there and looking forward to it. I also love to see the experimenting with the Eden process, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Gabriel's insights can help guide Eden and lead Eden. And also, I did just want to respond briefly to what Joe Louis was saying in the comments too, if that's okay with everyone. First off, thank you, Matthew Darwin, for your support. Much appreciated. And then Joe Louis, he asked in the voice chat, or rather in the chat room for this voice chat, if someone in a fractal is routinely producing relatively poor work, is there a process for stopping payments to someone in this instance? And then if so, has this process been tested in the Eden fractal or in Fractally Fractals? So just to provide a quick answer here, and thank you very much for asking that, Joe. And thank you for everything you do. I'm a huge fan of your work, by the way. But yeah, so to answer that, so for one thing, there are processes involved. So I'll explain that in a moment. But first, I'll just say quickly that the way I see it, and I think the way that many people in the community see it, is that everybody who joins these meetings and is contributing to a positive atmosphere and who's bringing fun or is bringing some contributions in the form of just helping the community reach consensus and sharing a great time, I think that's welcome. So even if people are coming and they're saying, I don't really know much about EOS, or I don't know much about fractals or whatever, but I'm here just to learn and see how it goes, then that's very helpful for the community to have more people reaching consensus and to just bring good atmosphere, and then people can learn. These are good opportunities to kind of market EOS and Eden and fractal governance to people, because people can see what other people are doing and that can inspire people. So far, I think pretty much everybody who I've met on these meetings, and I've been to probably 25, 30 different fractal meetings now, between the Eden fractal, the Genesis fractal, and now also the Alien Worlds fractal. So far, everybody who I met has been like really cool and really helpful and so forth. And there is that kind of level where somebody is showing up on video, then they're usually aiming to help, and they're usually genuine and sincere and so forth. It's a lot different than just text, where people just, sometimes write whatever. There's a lot more kind of people putting things on the line. But then to answer your question more directly about whether there's a process for stopping payments to somebody if somebody is not producing good work routinely and it hasn't been tested in the Eden fractal, factory fractals. So there is quite a comprehensive governance process in the Fractally white paper, whereby teams can form, and then there's a global governance kind of a council, a governance council for the fractal, whether it be the Eden fractal or whatever other fractal, where basically the people, or rather the teams that have earned the most respect, can each elect a leader to serve on the council. And then the council has 12 members, and then with 2/3 plus one, then they can enact any rules. So they'd be able to say if some individual or group or whatever isn't contributing or is routinely producing poor work and bringing the community down, then they'd be able to initiate a rule to make it so that person can't attend or whatever it be. And then also in the meantime, Dan Larimer recently proposed a couple months ago an interim governance process until the teams are formed, whereby people who are ranked 6 in a recent week can vote to make governance decisions for the group. And we were also just exploring that in the Eden Fractal this morning. So that's a way that if the community sees the need to stop paying somebody for whatever reason or make any other changes, then these governance processes are there and they are available, and they're also kind of being experimented with as well. And I hope that answered your question, and thanks again for asking.
Quick question regarding the Eden fractal. So you said that Dogman, your last Eden election, you used your budget for the Eden fractal. Are you also using your budget from this election for the Eden fractal? And is the plan to still allocate 100 EOS per week, or is that number going to go up? And also, I'm curious, I ranked 3rd in my group of 5, and so I'm wondering how much rewards I'm going to have earned for this morning.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for the question, Stephane. So I don't know the exact number right now. So far, on most meetings, we've had probably about 16 people on average showing up. And then today we had 23 or something like that. So the EOS rewards would be a little bit lower because there's more people. In the past meetings, the rank 6 are in something like 15 EOS, and then the rank 1 are in something like 1 or 2 EOS. So I imagine that you were the 3rd highest rank, which is technically rank 4, although the ranking numbers are kind of confusing. But I'd imagine you probably earned something like 5 EOS or 7 EOS. I'm not totally sure, somewhere around there. And then in terms of Eden Respect, the top one receives 55, then 34, then 21, then 13, then 8, then 5. So I believe that you'll receive 21 respect for joining and being ranked in that position, Stephane. And then to answer your other questions, well, for one thing, yeah, so I don't know if we'll do 100 EOS per week. That's something that I was also advocating for in the meeting today, to establish a governance process so that we can have code changes like that. And also to respond to Mark Stair, thank you for the comment. Mark Stair was saying Fractally is not using EOSIO at all, so it's not relevant for the EOS Fireside. So that might be true in a sense that the Fractally team with the Fractally Genesis group is using a different blockchain, but we're building Eden Fractal on EOS, and we have code with EOS. We have several great developers like James Mart and Vlad from Consortium, and also Matthias from Zeos also said that he's interested in helping as well today. And so we have several smart contracts on EOS, where people have the distribution of tokens automatically and can vote on chain. And there's also several other features like being able to make proposals we're working on, and people can sign agreements and so forth. But anyway, I was getting a bit distracted or a bit perhaps digressing a bit. But to answer Stephane's original question, that's the kind of thing where in order to make a code change, I suppose that we should have a community agreement and buy-in. So that's something that I'll suggest if we want to raise it to 200 or whatever. I think eventually now we have more funding, and I imagine that if we had 1,000 EOS per week rather than 100, or even potentially 10,000 or something like that. Obviously, there's a lot of things we have to think about first, but that could provide an enormous incentive for people to come and join EOS and learn about EOS and Eden and so forth. So that's something that we'll definitely explore. And then I think your other question, Stephane, was just about what are we doing with the funds? And so, yeah, in the last term, all the funds that I raised from Pomelo and Eden as a delegate basically was all given away 100 EOS per week for the Eden Fractal, for the most part, like 90% or something like that. And then now I haven't committed directly to what I'll fund because I'm leaving it open in case we want to, fund development or whatever. I know Patrick did the 500 more EOS, which I believe we're going to keep doing 100 EOS until the group decides to change it. And then I'll make sure that it's funded with that delegate budget, and then just helping the community in whatever way is possible, as much as possible, with that funding that I have available.
Great. Thank you for the answer.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for the opportunity, and thank you everyone for listening as well. Much appreciated.
I want to say thank you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Any other thoughts or comments or questions from the group regarding Eden or the Eden Fractal before we move on to other topics as John and Boyd requested?
Hey, I got a mic now. Switched to a different box.
Great.
This is going off of Chris when he was explaining what Han's platform was that he ran on. And I speak to Han quite a bit, and I follow the Korean group quite a bit because they are fairly unique in that they are, the Node 1 group specifically is very focused on governance, which is interesting to me because it's hard to find those old conversations about how does the block producer schedule look, and is it okay? What do we do about it? So I find it very interesting that there's this but I find it very interesting that there's a pretty passionate and dedicated community that seems to have this as like their central focus, as I've been reading for months, and it was a focus of mine in the first 2 years, and I think a lot of people were focused on it. And then things evolved, and the schedule kind of flowed back and forth. It was getting better, it was getting a little worse, it was getting better again, and then it's kind of okay. It just kind of like the tide. It changes a little bit, and then over the years it changes minimally. And now, so I stopped pursuing it because it was very tedious to monitor all those things. But this Node 1 group and Han's group specifically still pay attention to it, and they're still passionate about it. And for whatever reason, I can applaud that because it's been a long road. And so hearing Chris mention that was his platform was talking about my vote, which, a quick refresher, is there's a lot of details to it, and there's a light paper that's great to check out. But it largely kind of hinges on my vote being a proxy and managed by a committee. But the proxy doesn't have really any punching power unless Upbit shows up and proxies their cold wallets to their proxy. And so we got into it a little bit maybe 2 weeks ago when Eve was talking about BitHum offering staking rewards on their platform. And it started to bring up the question of Upbit will probably be doing the same thing. And certainly they will be because they've gone through the effort of updating their terms of use. And even though I'm sympathetic to this community's pursuit of better block producer schedule to remove, as Chris mentioned, sock puppets. I don't particularly see Upbit, even if they do jump on board, which I believe they will. I don't see them just handing their stake over to my vote for goodwill. I know that is their intention, that's their hope and their belief, and I'm supportive of it with their change.org survey, but I personally don't see that it makes business sense for the one exchange to do that while all other previous exchanges don't do that. They validate blocks and they optimize their votes. So my question here is, I see Hagerty is still on the line. So I'll give him a second to respond, but to not go into depth, I'm curious if the ENF or maybe somebody on the side, even if it's not at the ENF, is still thinking about these things. Are there ways to kind of root out or minimize at least the sock puppet situation? And there are, you can check the schedule right now. It's pretty easy to see them. Some of them have been there for years. A lot of them are in the 50s, upper 60s. Some of them have managed to get a little bit higher in the ranking, but it's a very curious topic to me, and the Korean community seems to be passionate about it. So I just thought I'd bring it up since he mentioned Han's platform is essentially this. If anyone has some insight or thoughts on it, I'm excited to someday maybe approach it again.
Quick note, I forgot to mention this in the intro, but maybe you guys have noticed Zach and Eve are not with us today. It's not because they don't like the fireside anymore. It's because they are traveling back from their company retreat today, so they weren't able to make it. So I'm not sure, Joe, if we'll be able to get some the ENF's perspective on that topic today, because Brandon, Zach, and Eve were not able to join us today, but I'm sure they will be back next week.
Yeah,
Just
that's fine.
to throw that out there.
I know it's a lot of the people in the chat here are well versed on how it's gone over the past 4.5 years, and I really am excited that Hagerty's on board. I don't see, unless he's got a different name, Bucky in the fireside, but I'm just always open to seeing what's their philosophy on it. What have they even considered it? Do they care? Is it an issue even? And if it's not an issue, why is it not an issue? I'm kind of open both ways. That's where I've ended up falling. I don't really battle that block producer schedule these days as I did in the first couple of years. But even just an idea that maybe someday, maybe 2023, we'll readdress the schedule. Because I think I checked last week, and some of the sock puppets from back when BitHum jumped on a year and a half or 2 years ago, not all of them are there, but some of them are still there, and pretty obvious ones. At least half a dozen, like I said, in the 50s or 60s. And then there's some that are even higher, like Binance's trust staking is routinely. Trust staking is routinely just outside the 21. I think they probably purposely keep it out there. And again, I'm not naming and shaming. I'm just saying this is something that you see on pretty much every staking chain. How do we do this better? Are we thinking about even attempting to do it better? And yeah, I think it's a fair question.
So I think you're referring to me. Sorry, I was thrown off because I forget which name I'm going by. But I wasn't paying too much attention, but I did catch the end of that. I do want to say, obviously, this is all just my personal opinion. It's not DNF's position, but it is something I do think about. I've thought about a bunch. And to answer one of your questions, I personally don't think it's actually a big issue. It's not a priority to me. It's something I am thinking about on the side. And there are aspects of the current consensus mechanism and particularly the vote aggregation that are not nice from a theoretical perspective, putting aside whether I think there's bigger questions of like governance that are more controversial, but then there's other aspects that are more technical or more game theoretical that are issues. For example, the vote pay mechanism is Sybil vulnerable, right? Basically, right? You're the combination of approval voting to determine your ranking to get vote pay, and the mechanism of paying based on your vote shares is not a good combination. There really needs to be a different way of doing that to theoretically be have nicer properties. It isn't really. I mean, it doesn't in practice doesn't seem to matter that much, but it is something that could be approved, I think, and that's something where like if the vote share was based on one token, one vote, that would be better. I think that's separate from the top 21 selection. The top 21 selection is, I don't think it matters much, to be honest. It's not clear. I know people have done modeling, but that modeling is based on current behavior, and as soon as you change the rules, everything changes. So the current data is not valid anymore. But one token, one vote, one token, 30 votes, true approval voting. There's so many different ways of doing things. I'm not sure if it actually makes a difference in the top 21 selection. I think there's a lot to explore there, though.
Yeah, I think I only bring it up because Han is right now. He should be deep in sleep. He's just on the other side of the world. But I know these are the thoughts and questions that have routinely come up in his group, and I think it's sometimes it's the 21 that's brought up. I think it's more about the money that's produced and just kind of accumulates to the same entity that happened to have a whole lot of votes. Like you said, it's the VPay is not really Sybil resistant, and I think that's one of the primary concerns that I see keep coming up over there. But anyways, I'm just fascinated by it, and I approach it earnestly because I don't really see it better anywhere else. I know it's something to consider and think about evolving if there's a way to evolve it. Not something to do haphazardly or rushed, but I see it in just about every staking chain. So it's an interesting topic for me. And Han apparently he won Eden election on it.
Well, the difference with other chains is basically that we have one token, 30 votes, right? So we can say that there is more civils here than elsewhere. There is also, I think, more like community VPs as well, because this is kind of the same process. You have like 29 free votes, let's say it that way, and you try to, if you optimize, you first exchange them with others that have similar amounts of tokens, and then when you cannot find more spots, basically people with enough tokens, you basically either forgo the additional money, or you give it to like some good team that's producing wallets or something like that, or you create a sock puppet. Well, these are the incentives that are in the protocol itself, right? So at the end of the day, it's all about compromises. So there's no real solutions. There's only trade-offs, and you can pull it one way or another. But this one was chosen for a reason. Doesn't mean it was a good reason. Doesn't mean it resulted in great result. But it's not something you just solve and then everybody will be happy. It's not. I don't think it's that we live in that kind of world anyway.
Cool. Thanks. I'm glad. Thanks for anyone responding to it. I know sometimes the room gets quiet when you start talking about these things, but I think there's nothing. There's no boogeyman involved when I start thinking about it. It's we're all adults here. Let's talk about it. If it's something we need to make better, let's put our hands in and make something better if we can, or at least keep thinking about it. But anyways, thanks for the responses, guys.
Yeah, it's like one of those things that it's not that it's the biggest problem that EOS has per se, and no one's ever really suggested that, and neither have you, Joe. It's just one of those things that, like you say, right? Like, let's talk about it. We shouldn't hide from something that could be improved. If there's an inefficient use of BP pay, which is arguably the point about sock puppets, then let's look at it. Because what we can see objectively, if we look at what's outside of the pay zone, there are some quality block producers who provide a lot of value to the network who are not being compensated. And so that therein lies a bit of what if we can solve for this, the solution would then empower and start to pay some of those BPs. So that's what I'm involved with this My Vote thing, because I want to see those BPs who are under recognized and not being paid for their efforts be recognized and paid.
I think I mean, while I think the vote pay mechanism does need to improve, I don't think it's a priority, but it would be nice for it to improve to not be gamed based on, Sybil attacks and stuff. There's still the separate issue of where do you cut it off. I mean, that the cutoff mechanism there is added for another particular reason, and it doesn't have anything to do with the Sybil issues. It's just because there's diminishing returns here. At some point, you're paying far less money than what is enough to incentivize actually running a node, which is what the purpose of that is supposed to be, really, to have standby BPs to, carry out those actions. And I think this is something that's because of the only mechanism until recently for funding being this BP pay mechanism, either block pay or vote pay. A lot of people have gravitated towards that to be rewarded. And I think it makes more sense to separate these concerns. And now through the grant framework and other things like this, there's ways of funding valuable initiatives, public goods that benefit EOS. So with that, I would say I would really push for focusing block producer pay for the actual just the task of operating the chain. I think that's having BPs focus on that and be paid for that. It makes more sense, and then have other avenues for additional value adds.
Downloaded a new sound effect for you guys just for this.
Hi, good afternoon. I appreciate stay here with us together, and I appreciate you will take your time for hear us or the rest of the community. So I was born in 1971, and the vision of the life or the community for a people like me is different than a vision a young people. So I was born in Venezuela, Caracas, and the people here is different or similar like the rest of Latin America. And the Latin American is different. The mind, the vision of the life is different than Europe or than United States, Canada, or Africa or Asia. So what is the point? The point is the people in Latin America view the life in anytime with enjoy, anytime make a party, So born a child, party. Is Friday or weekend, party. Somebody dead, party. So the life or the vision of the life is different. And it is a very good and strong point for a community like us, because the dream of any blockchain is the usability. And EOS mainnet have this strong point. We are scalable and very easy to use. And Latin America have other a strong point in 4+. That point is we every year born more people than dead. I can explain that better in Spanish, but please thank you for play attention in my explanation. So, for example, China, they are more people than born. Europa, similar. United States and Canada, similar. So the rate is different. The percentage, the percent is different in all that countries. But in all Latin America, born more people than dead. And it is a strong point because only Mexico and Argentina have the similar population like the United States and younger than United States. So I know there are some strong problems like internet connection, stability for the electric service or other services related with the blockchain and the internet. And the other strong point is the fiat, the currency, the fiat currency on the old countries is like that. Is have several problems for fight with the inflation. I'm so sorry, and have several problems for the people, the families maintain or keep your richest, su riqueza. I'm so sorry, and it is the ideal community for implement a cryptocurrency, blockchain like EOS, because the people is have a strong difficult every day, because every day the things, the service, the food, everything clean up, and every day much to pay more. And it is that 3 or 4 points, and try to explain to us, is a perfect or ideal place for implement a blockchain like EOS. So I try to explain the first intervention. I'm so sorry. And it is the complement of the first comment I was say a few minutes ago. So I don't know if you understand 100%, because my English is very bad. I lost a lot of vocabulary, and I understood less than I can read. So I try to make a text and try to make a video, and when better pronunciation and explain better the idea. So it is the point what I can a few minutes ago try to make a question from the fractals, the chief, the master chief, and the new chiefs delegates. So thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Yeah, I think I understood most of what you're saying, and your English is definitely not that bad. But so definitely thank you for jumping on and sharing your thoughts. All right.
Thank you for the English level.
I downloaded a new party sound effect as well. All right. Okay. Anyone else?
So the community catch the idea or point.
I think he's interested in fractals, like the pay. I got most of what he's saying, and I really appreciated it. When it comes to one of the core reasons, like my bleeding heart from why 10 years ago I kind of really hooked onto Bitcoin is because listening to use cases out of Venezuela, remittances across border to family, and when their local economies are failing them, there are always going to be nations like that are very fast to adopt these technologies, and I think he's in that situation with EOS. But anyways, it's a privilege for us to look for gains. A lot of these underdeveloped nations that their governments are failing them are they're looking for survival to hold on to anything that they've made and earned, versus a lot of us get the privilege of looking for a fast buck on Dogecoin or something silly, meme coins for the week.
Hey guys, mind if I jump in here?
Go for it.
So we publicly opened our swarms today, and we have been working with this with the Tipit team for the last 6 months. I'll briefly go into how these swarms work and give an overview of the technology that was built. We're super excited about it. Basically, what the smart contract does is it looks at a tweet, looks at the retweets, the quote retweets, and the comments, goes through everyone, and basically says, okay, does this person have a B NFT? And if so, reward them with the amount of cryptocurrency that the admin sets in the beginning. And we have a tiered membership system. So we have 7 tiers or 7 levels. You get to higher levels if you have a stronger Twitter profile. We use following follower and engagement metrics to see what level, to gauge the strength of your Twitter profile. And what we're thinking is, so right now we have around a little over 200 bees, mostly in Uganda and Nigeria. And our goal is to scale this so we can choose the most important tweets in the EOS ecosystem, from Yves LaRose, from Churmbot, from EOS Nation, from Eden on EOS, from Pomelo, and get 10,000 likes and retweets on that tweet. We also layer on top of that influencer research and outreach. So we get really rich data on influencers, see what they like, and if the piece of content is relevant to them, we have this whole tagging process where we try to get their attention. And the ultimate goal is to build relationships with influencers to suggest a Pomelo grant for them. If they're into Eden, try to get them to be an Eden member, or maybe even encourage them to apply to an ENF grant directly to further promote EOS. And so, again, we've been working on this for a long time. It's finally ready. Super appreciative of the Tipit team. If you guys are here, you guys have been amazing. And I'm just going to link in the chat our article that we just came out with today. And so, yeah, I hope you guys check it out and consider potentially signing up. It's a one-time sign up, and we will text you if you want, or email. You don't have to put your text and email, but if you want, we'll send you a notification when a swarm is live. All you have to do is like and retweet it, and that's it. It goes to your Tipit profile. It's super easy, one-time sign up, automatic rewards. This is kind of our flagship thing that we've been building for this whole time, and it's finally ready. And that's it. Thanks, guys.
Wow, it is amazing. 10,000 retweets only 1 week. Wow,
So
amazing.
That's the goal.
this is our goal. We're at around 200 now, but we feel like if we can get to around the 10,000 level, then the swarms could be really meaningful in terms of reaching a lot more influencers. Like right now, we can really only look at what I call mid-level influencers, like around 5 to maybe 100,000. But as we scale up, we can reach those higher level influencers and really finally just turn around the narrative for EOS. I know like the ENF's been doing an amazing job with all of the innovations they're coming out with. I feel like we can feel that narrative turning, but our job is what we're trying to do is just amplify those efforts to really squeeze every last juice we can out of all the amazing efforts that's going on in the EOS community.
Yeah, it is very, very difficult to find that type of influencers in my country, for example. So I can view or know about 2 or 3 strong influencers, but they're from Spain or from Mexico, from Argentina. So it is. I try to contact 2 or 3 radio. What is the word? Locutores. I'm so sorry. So it is a strong contact or attract the attention from that people. I think it is amazing contact or catch some people like that in Nigeria or other countries similar like it.
Jesse, do you have a tweet announcing this that we can retweet? Or is it just the article on By What I
Yes.
Know Now?
Let me get the tweet.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I'm gonna sign up. Absolutely.
I mean, the tweeting bees better have a tweet releasing the tweeting bees, right?
I hope so. Or else.
Well, we have to be. Am I on mute?
No, you're good.
Okay, yeah. So we have to be extremely selective on what we swarm. We're very thankful Pomelo's coming up, and then we can be maybe a little bit more liberal on what we can swarm.
Perfect. Yeah, and yeah, I'll use this opportunity to plug Pomelo a bit. As you say, Pomelo is coming up. Season 3 goes live on July 19th, so that's next Tuesday. Grant applications are going to open up at that time. So those of you who are considering applying to Pomelo, get your grants ready. We've noticed in the past 2 seasons that grants that submit early on in the grant application process tend to do better. I'm not sure if that's just because those teams are just more organized and just more have more awareness in the community, or it's because when donations go live, those grants get action, and then people who later on browse the grants see that these early grants have already had a lot of support, which tends to attract more support. So if you're considering applying for Pomelo Season 3, definitely recommend getting your publication ready for next week. And then donations are going to open 1 week after that. We're also planning to do more Twitter Spaces this season from the Pomelo Twitter account, in order to attract more attention from outside of the community to Pomelo. So next Wednesday, I believe, we might be doing our first Twitter Spaces event. It's going to be kind of a kickoff event hosted by Martin Brewer on our team. And then after that, we're going to be hosting pitch sessions on Twitter Spaces as well. So last season, we were hosting pitch sessions on Discord on here during the Firesides. But in order to get more attention and more, mainstream crypto attention outside of our community, we'll be hosting these pitch sessions on Twitter Spaces. So if you've signed up to the pitch sessions, you can expect an email within the next week, kind of explaining the process. And yeah, so we'll be hosting these Pomelo pitch sessions on Twitter Spaces at 2 p.m. on Wednesdays. So it's going to be 1 hour before the fireside chat. And then we're going to be allocating around 10 minutes for each pitch. So maybe around 6 minutes for the pitch and maybe 4 minutes for answering questions. And we're going to be aiming to go through 4 pitches per week. So we'll have 4 pitches starting at 2 p.m. on Wednesday on the Twitter Spaces. If there's more questions, if there's more discussions around these pitches, then those will overflow into the fireside chats that we're having, that we're going to continue having at our regular times, of course. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to the EOS Bees pitch in Pomelo Season 3. And of course, everyone else. I know many of you in here have had pitches in previous seasons, and we're looking forward to see your pitches for Season 3 as well. There we go. We got Jesse that shared the tweet here in the voice chat. Highly encourage you guys to retweet. Let's get some more visibility for the great work that the bees are doing. And yeah, very exciting system that you guys have built with Tipit, and looking forward to seeing it in action.
Thank you, Steph.
Hi,
right.
I hope it's okay that I jump in.
Yes, can you
My name
introduce
is
yourself?
Joanne. Yes, my name is Joanne. My friends call me Anna or Annie on the social media side. I actually am learning more about EOS recently, and I've been on this chat for a while because I've been researching on blockchain technologies, and I think EOS is very interesting. I guess the system and the blockchain itself, the governance, and what I've learned. And I was curious about what other projects other than promoting like like the Bees project Swarm, which is something interesting, but on the developer side, more like in projects, are there things that EOS might be working on right now that are looking for some sort of support or contributions or development on the like infrastructures, things that developers around the world can actually be able to engage easily through GitHub or and so on.
nsjames, can you jump in here?
I literally talked with her yesterday, so I think this is actually a great forum. Yeah,
Oh my gosh,
to
I didn't even
open
know
this
you were
up.
here. Hi.
Yeah. Impressive resume, very, very eloquent, very passionate, very dedicated. If anybody here is looking for a developer who's new to EOS, grab it up.
That's very nice of you. Thank you so much, Nathan. I think that conversation was pretty interesting that we were having yesterday. I didn't realize how long we were on the call. But yeah, I kind of wanted to see what other you have, like this group has open source that I can actually look into and see if I don't break anything or fix anything.
Denis, do you have any thoughts you can share?
Yeah, I was gonna mention in which context. So there's different types of open source or different types of projects. Is it something like DeFi, or is it something like backend analytics? Is it core plugins of Node EOS? So it'd be more like trying to figure out what is your niche and what is your sort of like passion or side projects. And then that would be much easier to kind of direct you in the right direction.
Yeah, of course. So I'm a full stack software and network engineer. I worked from the back end and front end. Mostly back end is one of the things that makes sense because once you have a working console for like interactive and non-interactive way, open source, I think it's one of like the most convenient things to have running efficiently. So then the can easily connect through the API and distribute. So like that kind of stuff, APIs, the network, or even infrastructures. Just looking for projects so I can learn a little bit more about EOS protocols and what things you want to have in the environment. Because I know about web infrastructure, but I've never worked with blockchain technology. So I actually was interested in looking more in deep of this.
Okay, well, we can maybe I can send you a few links or a few things, and maybe we can also talk offline after. And I know that our team is always growing, and we have always lots of mini projects that are not started, unfinished, still working on. So there's definitely lots of work in the ecosystem, but I think the best is to figure out, to match the developer talent with the scope of work. So we can sync up offline, and I think if you've already
Sweet.
spoken with
Yeah.
nsjames, then I'm sure we can get your contact from either posting it or sending it to me. But yeah, there's definitely lots of projects that are out there, but it could be a little hard to find sometimes.
I can chime in and echo the same thing. I'm Aaron. I work with Gray Mass, and we focus mainly on web technologies around EOSIO. I'd welcome you to check out our GitHub page. There's tons of open source software, SDKs, libraries, tools. It gives a good example of the kind of stuff we do. So there's organizations like this in the space. Yeah. But happy to help figure out ways to onboard new developers into the ecosystem. That's kind of what we've been focused on.
And
Sweet.
some of the
Thank
links
you so
that
much.
and some of the links that I was going to forward you is Aaron's repos. So
yeah,
I was like, oh, you should go check out this repo and this repo. Oh, it's Gray Mass. So yeah, I think Aaron has a lot of good repos out there that are all open source, really solid. Yeah. And, yeah.
Between
And it's React,
Thank
so
you
it's your
so much.
forte.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
And TypeScript.
Yeah, that's nice.
What
I
about
actually like React.
TypeScript?
Yeah, I mean TypeScript's okay. I mean, I basically started learning with C, so pretty much
Oh,
any
okay.
other language is very easy to adapt.
Yeah, for sure.
Love
Especially
to
what
hear all
learn
these.
like C, JavaScript, and Python. So yeah.
I love to hear all
Great.
these developers in the space perking up, saying, "Hey, check out my stuff." We've got Rodrigo in the chat as well from EOS Detroit, sharing some GitHub links to their repository. We've got John at Boyd sending you an invite, telling you to not listen to anyone else and go work for him. So I'm sure you'll have a
Wait,
lot
is this
of
right now?
yeah in the voice chat. So if you click the voice
Yeah,
chat
I'm just
top
noticing.
right,
Wow.
you'll see some more
Oh, this is awesome.
some more links
Yeah, this
and
is exactly what I was looking for.
all these people here that are speaking up are basically OG community members that have been with EOS from the start and are definitely part of great teams, and I'm sure you'll
Oh my God.
you
You
know
guys just saved me like probably a day's work of research because I know Nathan James gave me homework on like, checking out some projects and I was so happy about it, but I didn't like even know where to even start. So this is perfect. So thank you so much.
Sly in the chat seems jealous of the attention you're getting. I think he's going to start learning developing now. We've got Daniel Keys here saying, "Don't work for John, you should work for Pomelo." Aaron Cox sharing their links to Gray Mass. All good. All great
Yeah, that was the
projects.
first one I actually started looking into because I wanted to just like start going through stuff.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for joining the fireside, and thanks for jumping on the chat with us. And yeah, hopefully we see you again in the future firesides, and let us know if you end up finding a home and on what projects you end up working on.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you. This community is very supportive and engaging, so thank you.
All right, so we're coming up on 2 hours, and today's my girlfriend's birthday, so I definitely cannot go over 2 hours myself today. We did go through a lot of the topics that I had on the agenda. Some of the other topics that I had were kind of less engaging, I guess. I'm gonna share a few links here in the voice chat for people to check out. So we had some tweets from the ENF and from Eve talking about another article about DAGs that was published recently in the International Business Times publication. So I shared those links there. We also had Eve and Douglas Horn going on the Coin Republic podcast talking about the EOS comeback. So if you guys are looking for more, EOS content, there's definitely a ton to look into this week. And the last link here that I mentioned at the start of the show about DeFi Box second anniversary NFT airdrop. There's not much details about this NFT airdrop, so we don't know too much yet. But yeah, I imagine if you interact with the DeFi Box protocol, you might be eligible for some of these. I'm sure we'll learn more soon enough. All right, so last 5 minutes. Anyone else want to jump in here with some final thoughts? This is your time.
I'm John from the Old Timers. Please don't forget to support us on the Pomelo Season 3.
Of course, John. Looking forward to seeing your pitch on Pomelo Season 3. Oh, I'm gonna share the link for the pitch session sign up for Pomelo. So if you do have a grant on Pomelo for Season 3, like I said, we're hosting some pitch sessions on the Pomelo Twitter Spaces account. Generios is also hosting their pitch deck YouTube series where they dive deep into a pitch deck. So, and also we have the EOS Nation Asia team that's going to be hosting some pitch sessions, and actually the Korean community is also going to be hosting Pomelo pitch sessions. However, the Korean community sign up is not part of this sheet. It's part of the Korean community is handling their own. So if you're looking for that, you can always send me a link and I'll point you in the right way. All right. Last call for comments.
I got a quick thing. I'm Tony with actually with Greymass support, and just want to let everybody know that if anything comes up, they have any problems with Anchor or Unicove or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me here. Also, we've been putting together a whole bunch of guides for Anchor, simple stuff, account creation, import recovery for the various platforms. We're going to keep growing this out as we go, but just kind of wanted to put it out there. You can find a lot of those guides at greymass.freshdesk.com/support/home. I can post a link in the chat, but if anybody needs anything for Anchor or Greymass, please feel free to reach out. I'm 100% not on as technical on as Aaron is, but at the same time, we can hopefully handle some of these support cases and make sure people are not having any issues, and if they are, we can deal with them. So again, just feel free to reach out if you have any problems, or if you see anybody in chat has any questions about Anchor stuff, send them my way and help out as best we can.
All right, that's great, Tony. Thanks for sharing that. How long have you been with Anchor support?
About 6 months now. So kind of lurking, still wanting to kind of make sure I'm not speaking about stuff that I'm not quite as knowledgeable about, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that we're obviously working on, and so there's a lot to transition to, right? So we need to get a lot of these documents built for things, and so yeah, been pretty much hammering away at them for the last couple months now, and doing. If you're talking to support, you're probably talking to me. So if you send in an email or support ticket, I'm jumping on those. We've had couple hundred over the last couple months, so yeah, it's definitely enough to keep busy, but I try to keep an eye on Discord every day and always here in the Fireside. So if anybody has any questions, like I said, reach out, let me know.
Hey, that's awesome. Am I the only one that had no idea that Tony worked for Anchor support? Because I feel kind of silly right now.
I don't think anybody knew.
No. Like I said, I've been lurking, trying to not to out myself or anything like that, but no, trying to stay objective and kind of keep my own opinion about stuff while learning about everything. But yeah. So no, you're not the only one.
Okay, good. But yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that, and yeah, happy to know you're part of the great Grey Mass team. That's awesome.
It's awesome.
And make
We're
sure to share
growing.
that link.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to hear that Grey Mass is growing. For sure, that's definitely very bullish for the EOS ecosystem. All right, so I think we're gonna wrap it up there. Thank you everyone for joining. Thanks for everyone who participated in the conversations. Congrats again to the new Eden Chief delegates. Looking forward to seeing more progress in that sphere in the coming weeks and months. And yeah, last call, if you guys want to sign up for your POP token, go to the POP bot chat in Discord and write your EOS account name with the money sign in front of it. We've got 48 people signed up for this week's snapshot, which is great. Hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll be able to implement automatically awarding you guys POP tokens for joining the Fireside chat without having to sign up every week. So that's something we're working on. I am Super Sam is working on that for us. So hopefully we can deploy that in the next few weeks and make this process even more frictionless in the future. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for us today. Thanks for joining. Have a good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And as always, go EOS!
Go EOS!
Go EOS!
Go EOS!
Go EOS. Thank you.